My beloved child, listen to me now because I am speaking urgently into the depth of your spirit. This moment is not ordinary, and what I'm about to reveal will shake you with holy realization. You did not merely go through what looked like chaos, you walked through an invisible exam that was never announced, never explained, never scheduled on any calendar, and yet, you passed. I watched as life tightened around you, as your soul hungered for answers that never came, as doors that once opened now shut tightly in your face. And in that stillness, the terrifying silence where it felt like even heaven had gone quiet, I was watching, testing, weighing the purity of your faith not by your strength but by your surrender. You didn't know it, but your loyalty was being measured by how long you would trust me without any reward in sight. Others collapsed under pressure, others demanded signs, but you kept believing even when your breath was shallow and your vision blurred from crying. You passed the test that few even realized they were being given. You passed not because of perfection, but because your yes remained yes even when you were surrounded by loud reasons to quit. You passed the test of trusting me when it looked like I was doing nothing. You passed the test of love without evidence. You passed when you chose not to become bitter, not to curse me, not to give up on what I promised even when it felt like I had forgotten you. You passed when you showed mercy to others in your own moment of need. You passed when you praised me with a broken heart and lifted your eyes when the world told you to look down. You passed, my child, not because you saw breakthrough but because you didn't let go of me in the silence before it. And now, because of that, heaven is unlocking a movement that has your name written inside it. This is not just a pat on the back. This is the activation of something eternal that will shift generations after you. I allowed what seemed unfair to measure what no one could see. This was not just survival. It was spiritual refinement. It was me drawing lines in the spirit to separate the called from the chosen. And I'm telling you right now, you didn't just survive. You stepped into the ranks of the rare ones who passed the hidden test. And for those who pass, I do not reward with temporary applause. I reward with eternal authority. I will now begin to show you what I was preparing in the shadows. I will begin to unfold what I was building behind closed doors. You've cried in secret, and now I will bless you in public. You've prayed without a platform, and now I will lift your voice in places you'd never imagined. The enemy tried to convince you that nothing was changing, but what he didn't know is that I was already changing everything on the inside of you. Now, because you passed, the atmosphere around your name is shifting. Angelic assignments are being redeployed in your favor. People who once ignored you will be drawn to the light I placed on you. Doors you forgot about are about to call for you. And it's not because you earned it, but because you endured. This test with the gate. You passed. And now everything begins to shift from this moment forward. So listen closely, because what I will speak next is even greater. And now, I need you to understand why your endurance has created a path no one else around you could walk. The moment confusion set in, many stepped back, retreating into comfort zones, searching for quick fixes, chasing distractions, but not you. When the winds of uncertainty howled louder than my promises, you didn't run. You planted your feet and whispered, "I still believe." And that declaration was not small. It reached the courts of heaven like thunder. You remained rooted not because you understood what I was doing, but because you refused to break covenant with me. A decision, to remain when everything felt shattered, when nothing looked logical, is what distinguished you in the spirit realm. I watched you sit quietly while others shouted in anger. I saw you pray when nothing improved. I saw you hold on when you had every excuse to walk away. Saying doesn't look glorious in the moment, but to me, it is one of the highest forms of worship. You stayed when your heart wanted to escape. You stayed when isolation screamed. You stayed when the enemy pointed out how others seemed further, faster, favored. And yet, you kept walking forward, one trembling step at a time. Every moment you stayed, I was documenting it in a book of remembrance, not just to reward you, but to remind the heavens that you were one of the few willing to remain loyal without knowing the outcome. There were days you questioned if I was even aware of your pain. There were nights you thought perhaps you made a mistake by believing. But still, you clung to me. That faith, forged in the unknown, is unshakable. That obedience, done in secret, is what I honor publicly. I was never looking for loud performers. I was waiting for those who would remain through the storm in silence. You became that. And now, because you didn't exit prematurely, I am opening realms that others will never access. The portals I am unveiling to you are not found by chance. They are earned through consistent surrender when nothing is guaranteed. That's what you did. You stayed when staying meant loss. You stayed when staying cost you relationships. You stayed when it made no earthly sense. And because of that, my child, I am assigning you to territories in the spirit that have been untouched, dormant, waiting for someone with your kind of faith. This is why the warfare increased. The enemy sensed you were nearing something massive. He threw confusion, delay, and fatigue at you, hoping you'd abandon the road. What you didn't. And now the season of fog is clearing. What was once clear will become undeniable. What once felt heavy will now flow. You will begin to see that your staying was not wasted. It was sacred. I am multiplying the fruit of your waiting. New doors will not open because you knocked, but because you never left. I will cause divine acceleration in areas where you experience stagnation. You will begin to understand why staying still was movement in my eyes. The places where you sowed with tears, I will now cause a reaping with joy. This is what makes you rare. This is why your life will begin to carry a fragrance of wisdom and power. This is why I shielded you from exposure, because I was training you in trust. You stayed, and that staying built something eternal. And now, I will move you without delay. But before I show you what's ahead, I need to reveal something deeper. What no one heard, I heard. Every whispered commitment, every silent agreement, every gentle nod of surrender you gave when the world was asleep, they didn't vanish into nothing. They reached me like sacred incense rising through the night air. And while people around you waited for outward declarations, I was leaning in to listen for those subtle affirmations birthed from pain, reverence, and raw faith. Each moment you whispered, "Yes, Lord," without spotlight or applause, you were building a foundation that shook hell itself. Not all obedience needs to shout. Yours was hushed, consistent, personal, and because of that, it carried weight in the unseen. You see, my child, heaven doesn't reward noise. It responds to purity. Your quiet yielded more than crowd shouting and unbelief. I heard you when no one else noticed. You were making a choice that cost you everything. I witnessed you releasing what you loved most into my hands. I watched you choose peace over proving yourself. I heard that inner voice you used to calm your own fears and choose faith again. While others were moved by feelings, you were led by conviction. And your quiet yes, it sounded louder in heaven than the noise of multitudes. I need you to know something right now. Those seemingly small choices, walking away from bitterness, resisting secret temptations, staying pure when compromise was easier, those have ignited something eternal. Your name has been mentioned among the faithful not because of grand acts but because of quiet devotion. There were times you had nothing left but your yes, and you still gave it. There were moments when everything inside you was breaking, but you refused to break your agreement with me. That's what set you apart. Not perfection, not performance, but persistence in your yes. I counted every one of them. I recorded each act of loyalty. I remember every decision you made for me that cost you comfort, reputation, even relationships. I valued every time you didn't retaliate when you could have. I saw when you showed kindness to those who misunderstood you. I marked it when you forgave without receiving an apology. You thought those moments were unnoticed. They were not. They were celebrated in the courts of heaven. And now, because of those private victories, I am about to reward you with public confirmation. The doors that are beginning to open are not coincidence. They are tied to every yes you offered me in solitude. And I am not just opening paths for you. I'm entrusting you with impact. Your voice will carry an authority others will feel but not understand. That's because your yes didn't come from desire for recognition. It came from love. And love births legacy. I am weaving together every sacrifice into a display of glory that can't be manufactured. Those days you got up again despite fatigue, they mattered. Those nights you wept, but still chose to believe, they mattered. Those conversations where you chose truth over comfort, they mattered. You thought they were hidden, but in heaven, they resounded like thunder. And now, the sound of your obedience has broken barriers. You're about to walk through doors your bloodline never knew existed. You're about to see fruit from seeds no one else knew you planted. You're about to experience me confirming that every whispered yes was heard, honored, and multiplied. I am responding, not because you shouted, but because you trusted me enough to keep saying yes when you had no reason left but love. But now, I must take you deeper, because what's coming next requires even greater understanding. Let me pull back the veil and show you what truly happened when you wept, not just the tears that others saw, but the ones that fell silently onto your pillow, the ones you wiped quickly so no one would notice, the ones that came from a place too deep for words. You may have assumed your sorrow went unnoticed, buried under the weight of responsibilities, isolation, or exhaustion, but I saw every single drop. I was closer than your breath when the heaviness pushed you to the floor. You didn't just cry, you released pain, longing, confusion, and trust all at once, and I was there, catching each tear with care only I can give. None of them were wasted. Each one spoke on your behalf when your voice couldn't form prayers. Your heart was praying even when your mouth was silent. I did not ignore those moments, I collected them. I cataloged every cry, not to store sorrow, but to transform them into joy at the appointed time. I need you to realize something urgently. Those tears were not weakness. They were sacred declarations that you refused to harden your heart. While others armored themselves with bitterness, you chose to remain tender. While others drowned their pain in distraction, you chose to weep in my presence. And that tenderness positioned you for a healing that cannot be stolen. I watched you shiver in rooms where you didn't feel understood, and I stood guard over your soul when the ache became unbearable. I didn't just observe your grief. I entered into it with you. I sat beside you on those nights when the silence roared louder than any voice. Your pain invited me closer. And though I did not always remove it immediately, I was storing it as seed. Yes, seed. Every tear you cried in faith watered something unseen, something I'm about to bring into bloom. You thought you were breaking, but I was preparing the ground. You thought you were being buried, but I was planting something eternal. And now, the harvest of those tears is nearing your doorstep. You will see beauty emerge from the very places where pain once dominated. What seemed like loss will become launch. What felt like defeat will become destiny. I didn't just record your pain. I designed purpose from it. I will cause rivers of joy to flow from the very ground that soaked your tears. My child, I know what it cost you to keep going when you had no strength left. I know how tightly you clung to hope when despair clawed at your mind. And now, the weeping that endured through the night is about to give way to joy that arrives with the dawn, not joy that fades with emotions, but joy anchored in my unshakable promises. And this joy is not delayed any longer. It's already in motion. You're about to meet the evidence of your endurance. You're about to encounter the redemption of your hidden battles. I am answering not just your words but your weeping. I am healing not just your body, but the fractures of your soul. You thought your tears were hidden, but in my kingdom, they were precious stones being gathered to build your testimony. I will use every one of them. I will make them shine. And I am not done revealing the deeper meaning, because what you felt was sorrow was actually sacred preparation for something greater that is about to begin. Even now you believed you were just navigating a season of struggle, pain, and opposition. But what was really happening was far more intentional. I need you to know with urgency, this wasn't just life being unfair. This was heaven allowing a sacred separation. What appeared to be resistance was actually refinement. What you mistook as delay was a process of identification, not for me to find out who you are, but to show the spiritual realm who I had chosen. I didn't let the pressure come to destroy you. I let it come to distinguish you. Many started with passion, many claimed faith, many sang the psalms and spoke the language of belief. But when the fire came, only the ones anchored in me remained standing. This was never just about hardship, it was about sorting. I allowed this journey to separate noise from truth, hype from heart, convenience from conviction. You were being punished, you were being proven. The testing ground you walked through was a spiritual arena where only the faithful could continue. And though you felt surrounded by confusion, you were actually being watched by all of heaven. They leaned in to see how you would respond when the light dimmed. Would you still follow me without clarity? Would you still obey when it cost you everything? Would you still speak life when death tried to whisper in your ears? And you did. You kept walking. You kept choosing me, even when you were bruised, even when disappointment clouded your vision. My child, this was more than a test. It was a divine filtration process to reveal whose roots were real. I am not interested in crowds who pretend. I'm raising up remnants who endure. You are part of that remnant. The pain you endured wasn't pointless, it was purposed. I was revealing not just who you are but what you carry. And you carry something rare. Unwavering loyalty, forged in the fires of uncertainty. You never asked to be a warrior, but you became one anyway, by showing up when others walked away, by holding on to truth when lies screamed louder. I was using every single moment to purify you for what's next. Because what I'm about to release through you requires clean hands and a faithful spirit. What I'm about to entrust to you cannot be placed in hands that compromise. That's why I allowed the shaking, to remove what didn't belong, to expose every unhealed layer, to strip away pride, to destroy dependence on anything but me. And you allowed it. You surrendered even when it hurt. You yielded even when it made no sense. And now my filter has done its work. You are not disqualified by the struggle. You were qualified through it. You were not forgotten in the process. You were being prepared in it. And now, what once looked like a furnace will be the very thing that reveals the gold I've placed in you. You didn't just survive a trial. You were revealed in it. That's why I say, this was divine. This was sacred. And this is only the beginning. Because the ones who passed through the fire without giving up are now being positioned for purposes beyond imagination. And what I show you next will connect every moment you question. Now I must show you what most never grasp. What separates the chosen from the crowd is not the invitation, but the response. Countless hearts heard my whisper. Countless souls were stirred. I called out in the quiet. I knocked on doors of many lives, and I extended the same opportunity. But not everyone responded with the depth, surrender, and trust that you gave me. This is what makes you rare. This is what heaven celebrates. You didn't just hear me. You followed. You didn't delay with excuses. You didn't negotiate your way into comfort. And you didn't demand full explanation before moving. You said yes when everything around you said no. You followed me through terrain others avoided. You stepped into the unknown when most retreated into routine. You listened for my leading even when it cost you favor with people, places, or positions that once made you feel secure. That kind of obedience is precious in my eyes. Not everyone says yes with their whole heart. Many start with passion but fade with pressure. Many say they want me but they only want what I can give. You, however, desired me even when I seemed distant. You chased after my presence more than my promises. That's what I was looking for. That's the sound that moved heaven. Your response wasn't just obedience. It was worship. It was alignment. It was the evidence that your heart truly belonged to me. When I called you, I wasn't seeking performance. I was searching for surrender. And while others calculated their risks, you offered yourself freely. I didn't need you to be perfect. I needed you to be willing. And you were. You made room for me in places others filled with noise. You responded even when it hurt. You responded when it meant letting go of people you loved. You responded when it meant being misunderstood by those around you. You responded when there was no applause, no clarity, no map, only trust. That is what drew my spirit closer. And now, because of that rare response, I am unfolding a new season unlike anything you've seen before. This will not be like previous moments of breakthrough. This will carry a different weight. I am unlocking realms others can't step into because their response stopped at convenience. But you went further. You chose devotion when compromise would have been easier. You honored my voice when others drowned it out with doubt. You allowed my presence to guide you instead of being led by fear. That is why you are stepping into this moment. This isn't random. This isn't luck. This is the reward of the faithful. I didn't overlook your sacrifice. I didn't ignore your lonely nights. I didn't miss your whispered prayers when no one stood beside you. You weren't just one of many, you became one of the few. And I am doing something through you that won't make sense to those who decline my call. That's why some people disappeared from your life. That's why some connections faded, not because you failed, but because they couldn't walk where I'm leading you. You responded differently, and now you're being positioned differently. And as this next chapter unfolds, you'll begin to understand just how sacred your yes was, not just for you, but for generations attached to your obedience. What I am establishing through your surrender will outlive you. This is legacy. This is lineage. And it's only just beginning, because now I will reveal why your yes carried such eternal weight. You see, my beloved, passing through the season wasn't the final goal. It was the doorway to something far more strategic. What you endured wasn't just for the sake of enduring. It was preparation for elevation. When others only focused on survival, you unknowingly entered into something deeper. A qualifying phase for the purpose I reserved for only those who could be trusted with weight that carries eternal consequence. While others merely endured, you aligned. You weren't just surviving trials, you were being calibrated for assignment. That's why everything seemed so intense, so unrelenting. The pressure you felt was not punishment. It was the pressing required to awaken what had been sleeping within you. I had to test your capacity because what's coming will require more than emotion or intention. It will require spiritual precision. You've passed the test, yes, but what I'm doing now is not just a congratulation. It's a commissioning. You've crossed a line in the spirit that cannot be reversed. You've moved beyond ordinary endurance into eternal positioning. And I need you to understand, if you reach this point, many experience struggle, but not all of them yield. Many cry out for purpose, but very few walk through the fire with praise still on their lips. You didn't just endure, you surrendered. And that surrender is what marked you. Now that you've passed, I can trust you with what was once held back. There are things I withheld, not to punish but to protect. I couldn't release certain things prematurely, because timing matters when eternity is involved. But now, because you've been proven faithful in pressure, I am placing keys in your spirit that will unlock things not just for you, but for others. Your life is about to be used like a spiritual catalyst. Where you go, others will be stirred. What you speak, others will feel. The atmosphere around you is changing because you've been qualified by heaven to carry something weightier than words. You're about to carry movement. That means your influence won't just touch situations, it will transform atmospheres. You were not randomly chosen, you were sculpted through surrender. And this next season is not about striving, it's about stepping into divine rhythm. You no longer have to prove anything, you only have to carry what I've placed inside you. Doors will respond to your presence not because of your name, but because of the authority I've woven into your identity. This is not about elevation for recognition. It's about release for transformation. I've watched your integrity. I've examined your motives. I've weighed your heart. And because you didn't turn back, because you didn't trade your calling for comfort, I now assign you to dimensions of purpose few ever enter. The wilderness didn't break you. It built you. The silence didn't suffocate you, it deepened you. And now, the world will begin to see not who you were, but who I always knew you'd become. You've been hidden, refined, reshaped, and now you're being released. I am placing my seal over this new chapter. You are not walking into it alone. You're walking into it backed by heaven, and it will not be by your strength, but by my Spirit. And before the first step begins, I must show you what I'm about to release into your hands. Get ready. I must say this with urgency. What I am placing upon your life is not a common outpouring, not a recycled blessing or routine answer. What's being unlocked now carries the fingerprints of divinity, the weight of heavenly assignment, the signature of something not sourced by human means. You are stepping into a realm where my plans will override limitations that have defined your past. The kind of movement I am about to release cannot be manufactured, duplicated, or predicted. This isn't borrowed breakthrough. This is custom-crafted glory, shaped by every moment you trusted me when nothing made sense. This isn't just favor, it's anointing. And there is a difference. Favor gives access, but anointing shifts dimensions. And that's what I'm placing upon you now, a tangible authority that transforms what it touches. You've been prepared for this without even knowing the scale of it. You were not aware of how strategic your positioning was, because I concealed the magnitude to protect the process. If I had revealed the fullness earlier, the pressure might have overwhelmed you. But now, your spirit is ready to carry what your flesh once feared. The oil flowing over you now is cost. It was birthed in obedience, grown in stillness, and refined in affliction. This isn't for display, it's for impact. I've designed this release to break barriers, dismantle cycles, and confront darkness without you even raising your voice. This is why I didn't allow you to settle for imitation or shortcuts, because I wasn't preparing you for normal. I was preparing you for weight. What's coming is weighty but not burdensome. It won't crush you, it will complete you. And it's marked by heaven's timing, heaven's vision, and heaven's power. People will look and wonder how doors opened without explanation. But what they won't see is the private surrender, the internal sacrifice, the decisions you made when no one was watching. Those choices qualified you to carry this level of release. I'm not just giving you opportunity. I'm entrusting you with spiritual keys that shift atmospheres, unlock destinies, and heal what systems couldn't. What's about to unfold in your life will not follow patterns. It will interrupt them. You won't have a blueprint to copy, because you are the blueprint I'm now unveiling to others. This is not revival hype. This is restoration reality. You are walking into divine fulfillment, not because of performance, but because you waited when waiting felt like death. I will now take everything that seemed delayed and cause it to arrive in waves, not to overwhelm, but to overtake. And each wave will carry something intentional: restoration, clarity, provision, influence, vision, protection, and fulfillment. You will not chase these things. They will come to you. This season will not resemble the former, and that's because I'm doing something unprecedented. And just as I shielded you from premature promotion, I will now surround you with divine support. You won't have to force open anything. The marked are moved by divine wind, not human effort. So do not shrink when it begins. Do not hesitate when the doors fly open. Do not question if you are ready. I say you are, because I formed this for such a time as now. What's arriving is not a coincidence. It's a confirmation. And what I will reveal next will expose why I had to wait until this very moment. There's something I must reveal now. Something that will cause the past to make sudden sense. The obstacles you encountered weren't accidental, and they weren't attacks from all directions. Many of them were divine in origin. Yes, I placed them there, not to punish you, but to prove what was hidden deep within you. You see, there's a faith that walks when the road is smooth, and then there's the faith that climbs when there's no clear path at all. I was looking for the latter in you. That's why I allowed certain doors to resist your knock. That's why some plans collapsed despite your best effort. That's why people you trusted suddenly stepped away. and opportunities disappeared as quickly as they arrived. It was not because you were forgotten. It was because I needed to see what would rise when everything fell. Would you still lift your eyes? Would you still believe I was good? Would you still declare my promises when every visible sign screamed otherwise? The barriers weren't meant to block you. They were placed as invitations to rise. They were spiritual mountains meant to reveal the climber inside you. I watched as you pressed against what looked immovable. I saw how you cried, yet didn't stop. I measured how your persistence increased every time your expectations were denied. You didn't know it then, but each resistance was strengthening the muscles of your spirit. Each delay was sharpening your vision. Each rejection was forging the resolve I needed you to carry for what comes next. You weren't being denied. You were being developed. The higher calling on your life required a different kind of preparation. If I had removed every difficulty, you would have missed the glory hidden in perseverance. The barriers trained you to hear me when others panicked. The silence trained you to discern me beyond circumstances. The lack trained you to lean on my sufficiency, not your strategy. I didn't need you to have an easy journey. I needed you to become immovable. And now, because you climbed instead of quitting, you've reached a spiritual elevation where access is no longer delayed. What once resisted you will now yield without struggle, not because the barriers are gone, but because you've been elevated above them. You stepped into a level where what once intimidated you now serves as your platform. That mountain you climbed in tears, it's now the place you will speak from with boldness. That wall you thought would break you, it's now behind you, and you carry the keys to help others overcome. I allowed those moments not to harm, but to highlight. I was revealing to the world, and even to you, what I've placed within you. You are stronger than you think. You are bolder than you knew. You are wiser than you were. And now that you've reached this height, I will begin to release things that match your maturity. I do not place weighty glory on shallow ground. I waited until you grew deep enough to hold what others would mishandle. And this next move will not be delayed by resistance, because you've proven that resistance only refines you. I am opening what once was locked, not because the door changed it, but because you did. And as you stand here now, I will show you the reason I protected certain things, because what's about to come requires a purified heart, and that's what you now carry. And this is why I must now take you even further, beyond climbing, beyond pressing, into the place where the door swings open by my breath alone. You've reached a line that few even knew existed, a boundary not drawn on earth, but in the unseen realm. And now that you've crossed it through persistence, purity, and endurance, I'm doing something that cannot be reversed. I am unlocking places that have remained sealed for bloodlines before you. This is not merely your personal blessing. It is a generational breakthrough. What was withheld from those who came before you, due to fear, compromise, or oppression, is now being released through your obedience. I have watched, over time, how patterns cycled through your lineage, delay after delay, loss after loss, hopes that never reached fulfillment. But you, my beloved, stood where others bowed, and you said yes where others stopped short. You confronted what others avoided. You tore through comfort zones and pressed into areas that terrified hell. And now, as a result, I am reaching into the vaults of withheld inheritance. These aren't just blessings measured in things, they are measured in spiritual weight. They are mantles, assignments, revelations, dreams, open heavens, and healing that were meant to flow but got stuck in generational traffic. But no more. Your faith has broken what your ancestors could not escape. Your yes has undone spiritual blockages that tormented your family for decades. Where there was once silence, I am now releasing a sound of freedom. Where there were once chains, I am releasing commission. Where there was confusion, I am releasing clarity that will echo through those connected to your name. I did not allow you to walk this hard road just to bless you. I allowed it so I could restore what was stolen from your entire bloodline. And the shift has already begun. You may not yet see the full result, but heaven is roaring with movement on your behalf. There are prayers your grandparents whispered that you will walk in, There are victories your parents hope for that will manifest through your hands. There are breakthroughs your children will never have to fight for because you have fought already. I have counted your cost, and now I will release what was stored up, held back, and delayed, not just for you but for everyone who comes after you. What's coming is deeper than provision. It's spiritual inheritance. It's territory in the spirit that others lost access to. You are standing in the position of a restorer, a repairer of breaches, a pioneer through pain, and a forerunner into promise. I am tearing open scrolls that have remained untouched for generations, and your name is written within them. You are not walking into someone else's blessing. You are walking into what I wrote with you in mind before you were even formed. The obstacles you faced were proportionate to what I planned to release. And now that you've passed the gate, I will not trickle down my goodness. I will flood you with what was held in divine suspension. The gates are open. The windows are pouring. The seals are being broken. This is your inheritance season. And what I'm pouring out through you will cleanse every place your bloodline bled without healing. You are the one I have trusted to steward this. And I will give you wisdom to carry it. I will give you insight to protect it. And I will give you strength to multiply it. This is the beginning of what I planned long before you arrived. And now that you've stepped into it, I must now show you why I had to wait until the exact second to unleash what's coming next. What I'm placing on you now cannot be reduced to earthly definitions of favor or success. This is not simply a reward for surviving hard seasons. This is a divine assignment wrapped in the weight of purpose. I am not just pouring into you. I am sending you out. I am not merely adding good things to your life. I am activating a call that has been dormant in the generations before you, now awakened in full strength within you. This is commissioning, not comfort. It comes with glory, but it also comes with great responsibility. You are being called higher, not in status, but in assignment. I am now placing in your hands the very tools that will uproot strongholds, restore broken foundations, and stir the hearts of those trapped in spiritual slumber. You've been trusted with more than personal advancement. You've been entrusted with my mission. You're no longer just receiving. You're being authorized. I have examined your heart in the silence and shaped your spirit in the stillness, and I now declare, you are ready to be released. The time for hiding is over. The time for waiting has expired. You've been faithful with tears. Now you will be fruitful with power. This commissioning is not about elevation for display, but about carrying my presence into places that have resisted light. You will not move alone. I am sending you with my spirit, my strategy, and my seal. Your words will carry precision because they will not come from your own wisdom. They will carry the breath of heaven. Your hands will not just work, they will heal. Your feet will not just walk, they will advance the boundaries of the kingdom. This is why the battles increased before this moment. The enemy wasn't fighting your peace, he was fighting your purpose. He knew that once you crossed into this level of spiritual authority, you would become a threat to systems that profit from bondage. But you made it. And now, you're not just marked by grace, you're appointed by fire. This commissioning will not look like platforms or applause. It will look like impact, like restoration, like revival in unlikely places. I will lead you into conversations you didn't plan, but that I ordained. I will place you in rooms where your voice will unlock hearts. I will line you with souls who were waiting for someone to carry what you carry. You're not just stepping into opportunities, you're stepping into orders. Your yes in secret has activated a public move of God that will ripple far beyond what you can measure. You will need to push your way forward. I will make the way unmistakably clear. I will provide what's needed before you even ask. And I will shield you from distractions sent to detour you. Because when I commission, I cover. When I send, I surround. When I appoint, I equip fully. So do not look back. Do not hesitate. You are being sent for such a time as this. And you will know you're walking in my commissioning because doors will recognize your presence before you even touch the handle. Atmospheres will shift as soon as you arrive, not because of your effort, but because of my Spirit upon you. And now that you know this isn't a blessing alone but a divine deployment, I must show you the deeper reason why I kept you hidden for so long before this moment arrived, before time began, before your first breath, before any struggle tried to define your life. I wrote your name into something sacred, a purpose not many would understand, and even fewer would pursue. I concealed it in a scroll not made by human hands, a record in the heavens detailing your divine function, your spiritual identity, your eternal weight. This wasn't just a dream I hoped you'd reach. It was an appointment waiting for you to mature into. And now, because you've walked through fire without cursing me, because you've bowed low in surrender when others chose pride, I am unsealing what has been reserved only for this moment in time. You didn't stumble into this calling. You were always destined for it. But I had to conceal it until your spirit was prepared to carry it with purity. I had to shield you from seeing too much too soon, not because you weren't worthy, but because what I planned through you required depth most never pursue. I kept you hidden, not because you lacked value, but because the scroll with your name demanded protection. And watch you cry out for clarity. I've listened as you asked why others seemed to accelerate while you stayed in stillness. The answer was simple: you carry something rare, and rare oil must be guarded. If I had revealed the fullness of your assignment too early, you would have been tempted to rush ahead without foundation. But now, I am unfolding the very scroll that heaven has kept sealed until this season, and what's inside will alter the path you thought you were on. It contains blueprints that don't match the systems around you. It holds revelations that challenge comfortable religion. It holds insight that pierces through deception and awakens hearts. It holds strategy for region, healing for families, vision for generation. And you were chosen to carry it, not because of education, not because of title, but because of availability. You said yes in the wilderness. You said yes when no one clapped. You said yes when your voice trembled. And now that yes is being honored with a scroll that cannot be counterfeited. Others will try to understand what you're carrying, but it won't make sense to them, because this was not crafted for imitation. This is a rare assignment, marked with my seal, appointed with my authority. You will feel it burn in your bones when you try to remain silent. You will sense its urgency even when the world tells you to slow down. You will be awakened at odd hours, stirred with instructions you never studied, moved by compassion that doesn't come from your mind. That's how you'll know it's me. And this scroll isn't just about you. It's about the ones attached to your obedience, the ones I've placed along your path who need what you carry. You don't need to prove your calling. Your fruit will speak. You don't need to strive for opportunity. The scroll will guide you. What I've written for you will not return void. It will unfold line by line, step by step. And as it does, you will begin to understand why I had to keep you hidden while others were being seen. I had to preserve what I wrote. And now that I've revealed it to you, the atmosphere around you will begin to respond. Watch as doors align. Watch as confirmations arrive. Watch as people are grown without explanation. Because what's written in this scroll is not static, it's alive. And you, my child, are about to walk in the fullness of what was scripted before the world began. But before I lead you forward into the first pages of this new assignment, I must uncover what has been prepared in the silence for this precise hour. Now that the scroll has been opened and your name has aligned with my timing, something irreversible has shifted. You are stepping into an atmosphere where what once perplexed you now begins to make perfect sense. I am clearing the fog not just around your path, but within your spirit. You're no longer walking through mystery without meaning. You're walking in revelation born from refinement. What used to feel like contradiction is now becoming confirmation. You don't have to guess anymore. You don't have to wonder if it's me. The season of uncertainty has expired. I am lifting veils from your eyes and untangling the questions that haunted your quiet hours. Where you once saw pieces scattered like a puzzle you couldn't finish, you'll now see how they connect with divine precision. I withheld clarity before, not because I wanted to frustrate you, but because I needed your trust to grow before I gave you vision. I didn't want you chasing answers. I wanted you chasing me. But now, because your pursuit never changed direction, I am unveiling what confusion once buried. You will begin to know, deeply, confidently, which way to go, who to align with, what to release, and when to speak. Discernment will sharpen, insight will intensify, and decisions that used to drain you will now flow like water from a clear stream. I am illuminating what was hidden beneath your waiting. You're not just receiving direction, you're receiving understanding. You will look back on prior pain and say, "Now I see why." You will recall former disappointments and declare that delay was protection. I am not just showing you the way, I am showing you the why. That's the level you've reached, where confusion loses its grip and wisdom takes its place. You won't need to lean on the opinions of others to feel secure in your steps, because my spirit within you will confirm each movement. Even your surroundings will begin to change. Environments once filled with chaos will feel the order I've established inside you. I'm making your thoughts sharper, your spiritual hearing more precise, your heart less scattered. Because this level demands clarity, not noise. I am not bringing you out of the wilderness just to wander again. I'm bringing you into purpose with focus. Every false voice that once pulled on your emotions is being silenced. Every old pattern that once clouded your discernment is being dismantled. I am establishing your inner atmosphere to reflect the peace that governs my throne. Steady, firm, unmoved. You will be able to sense instantly what aligns with me and what doesn't. And you won't need to explain your clarity to those who are still in confusion. Your fruit will reveal it. Some will notice you no longer hesitate, and they'll ask what changed. What changed is that you let me refine you until the cloud lifted. What changed is that you chose to obey even when nothing made sense, and now sense has been restored through obedience. This clarity is a gift, but it is also a weapon. You will not fall into traps that once deceived you. You will not entertain cycles that once seduced you. You will walk with eyes wide open and a spirit fully awake. This is the reward for the faithful, to see not just with natural understanding, but with my insight. You have arrived at the point where I trust you to carry vision, not just hope. And I will continue unveiling things in layers, not to confuse you, but to build a rhythm with me, where we walk together in constant understanding. And with every step forward, more will come into view. This is just the beginning of divine clarity, and now I must show you what it reveals about the things that never made sense before. You've reached the moment where the scattered fragments of your past begin to assemble into a revelation that will take your breath away. Every detour, every closed door, every not yet, every time you thought I was silent, it's all converging now into something only I could orchestrate. You are standing at the intersection of divine timing and destiny's blueprint, where what once seemed random is proving to be unmistakably intentional. I am causing the isolated pieces to lock together in harmony, not only to show you that I was involved all along, but to release the power that only flows through fulfilled prophecy. This isn't about coincidence, it's about confirmation. Those delayed relationships, that painful chapter you tried to forget, the decision that seemed like failure, even the moments you thought you lost everything, each of them were lines in a larger narrative I was scripting in the secret. And now, I'm flipping the pages faster. I'm revealing the connection between events you thought were disconnected. Where you once saw confusion, now you will see alignment. Where you once carried disappointment, now you will carry understanding. I'm allowing the spiritual lens over your eyes to adjust, so what looked like contradiction becomes clarity. You'll suddenly know why certain people had to leave, why specific opportunities slipped through your fingers, why some prayers were met with silence instead of swift answers. I wasn't rejecting you. I was synchronizing everything with a timeline greater than your own. And now that you've reached the turning point, the fulfillment of long-standing promises will begin to rush into your life, not because time has finally caught up, but because your spirit has. Your maturity has activated fulfillment. Your trust has summoned the unfolding. I am weaving together seasons that seem scattered into a tapestry of glory no one can deny. The story I'm telling through you is not a surface testimony, it's a prophetic masterpiece. Others will see how the path you walked was never random. They'll begin to say, "There's no way that just happened," and you'll be able to say, "That was my Father's plan all along." And this won't just be about you. It will ripple into the lives of those around you. Your connections, your influence, your impact, all of it will now function as pieces in the greater fulfillment I've designed. I'm redeeming the timing that once tormented you. I'm making up for the years that felt stagnant. I'm proving that nothing was wasted, not your tears, not your labor, not your hidden faith. Everything that didn't make sense is being tied into the next chapter with a thread of my word. This is what prophecy looks like when it breathes. This is what manifestation feels like when you've waded through the ache. And I am not done, because as the understanding deepens, so will the assignment attached to it. Your pain wasn't random because your purpose isn't either. I used every moment to write a story that would bear my signature. Now the time has come to walk in the prophecy you didn't even know you were fulfilling while you were waiting. And with each step forward, you'll see it more clearly. And I'm not just connecting what was behind you, I'm setting the stage for what's about to be unveiled next. There is a sacred reason why your journey often felt unnoticed, why you were passed over, overlooked, and misunderstood while others seemed to ascend with ease. It was not abandonment, it was protection. I purposely drew a veil over your process, not because you were unworthy of recognition, but because what I was crafting inside you needed room to grow without interference. I was not hiding you out of rejection, I was preserving you out of purpose. Visibility before readiness would have crushed the very gift I was developing. You longed for clarity, for movement, for evidence that your faith was producing something. But what you didn't see was that I was working in the silence. I was forming strength in your spirit that can only be forged in unseen places. I allowed isolation to become your classroom. I permitted quiet seasons to become sacred training grounds. In that silence, I spoke in ways that noise would have drowned out. In that stillness, I rewrote the way you hear me. The delay in exposure was not denial. It was divine shielding. I kept you low so I could build you deep. You were not buried. You were planted. And in the hiddenness, your roots grew stronger than any platform could offer. The depth you now carry was not taught through applause, but through encounter. While others rushed into the spotlight prematurely, I invited you into the shadow of my wing, not to stall you but to strengthen you. Because what I'm releasing through you cannot be carried by shallow foundations. This is why I removed certain people. This is why I shut certain doors before you even had the chance to knock. I knew what I placed in you was valuable, and I refused to let it be exposed to environments that would distort it. I kept you from the crowd because I was calling you into communion. I kept you off stages because I was anchoring you in secret places. And now, the hidden season is lifting. But not because I've changed. It's because you have. You no longer crave attention. You crave assignment. You no longer seek approval. You seek alignment. And that shift is what makes you ready. Now, when the light shines on what I've built in you, it won't blind you. It will reveal me. Now, when doors begin to open and voices start to recognize your value, you won't bend under the pressure. You'll stand in quiet confidence. Because you were made in the hidden place, you will not fall in the visible one. The weight of what you carry was birthed in the silence others ran from. And that is why what I'm about to release through you will not just impress, it will transform. You won't have to explain how you were prepared. The power in your words, the authority in your presence, the peace in your spirit, it will all testify that you were shaped in the secret with me. The hidden years were not wasted time, they were divine investment. And now that the silence has accomplished its purpose, I am opening your life like a scroll, for others to read and see what I can do with one who stays faithful in the dark. But before I shine the fullness of what I've cultivated, I must first show you what I'm about to unveil, not just to the world, but to you. Everything I cultivated in the unseen, every layer of wisdom, every depth of compassion, every ounce of character refined in your waiting, it's all about to rise to the surface, not to glorify you, but to reveal me through you. What I placed within you during those years of obscurity is not meant to stay buried. The seeds of endurance you watered with prayer and tears have reached full maturity. And now, my Spirit is lifting the veil from your life, revealing what has been growing beneath layers of silence, sacrifice, and surrender. This unveiling is not performance. It is purpose made visible. The world may see sudden movement, but I know how long the preparation has taken. The unveiling will seem quick to others, but you and I both know the price paid in the quiet. And I am not exposing you to be consumed. I am revealing you to be effective. You are not being put on display for applause. You are being placed like a lamp on a stand to cast light where there has only been shadow. What they will see is not polish, they will see power. They will encounter authority that cannot be mimicked. They will be drawn not to your voice, but to the Spirit who speaks through you. And yes, this moment may feel unfamiliar. You may even question why things are suddenly shifting so quickly. But trust this. I have timed this unveiling with precision. I have held back the tide until the structure within you could bear the weight of its wave. And now the wave is rising, and you are ready. The unveiling will come through moments you didn't plan. Sudden opportunities, divine appointments, unexpected open doors. You won't have to force this exposure. You won't need to manufacture momentum. I will draw eyes to what I have been building in secret. And as I bring visibility, I will guard your vulnerability. You won't be left unprotected in the light because I've already covered you in the hidden place. And while many chase fame, you will carry impact. While others build brands, you will carry breakthrough. You are not emerging for a moment. You are rising to fulfill a movement I placed within you before your first breath. You are being revealed because now, finally, you are ready to release what has been forming all this time. And as you step into this unveiling, watch closely, because the next phase of this journey will not be shaped by your plans, but by the overflow of what I have poured into you. What was once hidden is about to be heard. What was once buried is about to bear fruit. And as the world watches, it will not be your glory they see. It will be mine, shining through the vessel I've carefully refined in the fire of patience. And now, my child, take a breath, stand still for a moment, and prepare, because what I show you next will unlock access to realms no one expected you to enter. What I am leading you into next cannot be explained by credentials, lineage, or strategy. The places you are about to enter are not opening because of qualifications written on paper. They are opening because of my hand upon you. The authority I have placed within you will speak louder than introductions. You won't need to announce yourself. The Spirit within you will go before you. What I deposited through the seasons of refinement will now become evident, not through words, but through atmosphere. You will step into spaces where conversation will pause, not because of who you are, but because of what you carry. You are becoming a living message, not a sermon, not a slogan, but a vessel that shifts rooms without needing to raise your voice. The anointing upon you has been forged in silence and will now release sound without striving. You've longed for impact, and I am about to show you that impact begins before a word is spoken. When you walk into a room, healing will begin without an altar. When you enter spaces of confusion, peace will follow behind you like a flowing garment. I've made you into a dwelling place of my presence, and that presence will now go before you like fire on cold terrain. You will be invited into places you did campaign to enter. You will find yourself in rooms where others wonder how you arrived, and it will be because I appointed your feet to step where others tried to climb. You were not built to impress. You were prepared to carry. This is the kind of authority that cannot be explained, only experienced. Those near you will be convicted without condemnation, encouraged without flattery, awakened without fear. I am sending you as a carrier of divine clarity, and I will confirm it over and over again. Watch how doors swing open on their own. Watch how people's hearts soften before you even begin to speak. This is not about performance. It's about presence. I'm not looking for entertainers. I'm sending emissaries. And that's what you are becoming, a walking encounter. You will no longer need to convince people of what I've placed in you. They will feel it. They will recognize something different, even if they don't know how to name it. And when they ask what it is, you will know what to say, not to bring attention to yourself, but to draw them to me. You will be an extension of my invitation. You will carry answers that silence torment. You will become a safe place for hearts that have been running. And you will do it without needing to be loud because I've made your spirit strong. Your presence will become evidence of my faithfulness. And in those rooms, on those platforms, behind those doors, I will be with you. You will walk alone. I will teach you how to navigate honor without pride, influence without compromise, visibility without dilution. And every room you walk into will not be the same after you leave. Because when I send you, I don't send you empty. I send you full, overflowing, radiant with the fire that was ignited in the secret place. So prepare yourself, because the places I'm bringing you into next will not just be new to you. They will be transformed by you. And this is only the beginning of how I plan to reveal my glory through the places you once thought were unreachable. But before you go further, there is something more I must uncover. Something about why I've reserved this level of influence until now, the elevation you're stepping into. The honor that's beginning to rest upon your life. The open doors and platforms unfolding. They are not for display or applause. I am lifting you now, not to be admired, but to become a vessel of healing, reconciliation, and repair. This isn't about status. This is about service. I'm placing you where others broke things, so that you can rebuild with what I've restored in you. The promotion coming over your life is not a reward for perfection, but a strategic appointment for impact. I didn't pull you through the fire just to shine. I brought you through to be a living testament of how I make all things new. You'll be placed in spaces where brokenness is buried under performance, and I will use your presence to expose it gently, not to shame, but to bring hope. I've trusted you with this because you know what it means to live through what others didn't survive. You've walked through betrayal and didn't become bitter. You've lived through abandonment and still chose love. You've been wounded deeply, and yet you've chosen to be a healer. That's why I'm raising you now. You didn't allow pain to define you. You let me refine you through it. And because of that, I can now entrust you to step into rooms others ruined, not to correct with ego, but to repair with humility. You won't need to defend your position. The fruit you carry will speak louder than any title ever could. There's a sound that comes from someone who has been broken and rebuilt, a quiet authority that releases peace without striving. That's what you now carry. I'm sending you into places that need that sound. People whose faith has collapsed under religion's weight will find safety in your story. Those who have wandered far will begin to return, not because of your ability, but because of the restoration that flows from your life. You are not just healed, you are healing in motion. You're not just restored, you're a river of restoration for others. And that is why the journey has taken the time it did. I wasn't just getting you through, I was preparing you to bring others out. Every delay refined your discernment. Every heartbreak shaped your compassion. Every closed door trained your perspective. Nothing was wasted because I was preparing you for more than a moment. I was forming you for a mission. And this next chapter will be marked not by noise but by fruit. Restoration will follow you. Lives will begin to find alignment as they connect with the wisdom you've gained through your journey. Don't be surprised when people begin confessing things around you. Don't be shocked when others begin to cry just being near you. It's not about you. It's the power of what I've restored within you. You're carrying answers that others have been praying for. And I will continue to deepen your capacity as you remain surrendered. This promotion isn't about your comfort. It's about my kingdom. And as long as you keep your heart aligned with mine, I will expand your influence with protection and provision. So walk in this with joy, not fear. Stand in it with grace, not pride. You are being raised not to be seen but to lift others. And what I build through you will be known not by flash but by freedom. And before I lead you deeper into that restoration mandate, Let me now reveal why I have chosen to use even your deepest wounds as foundations for what I am about to construct through you next. Now hear me clearly, my beloved. What the enemy thought was lost forever, what generations before you mourned is gone, what darkness claimed as its victory, I am placing it back into your hands, but not as it was before. You are not just about to reclaim what was taken, you are about to reproduce it with increase. The curse stops with you, and the restoration begins through you. I've watched, for years and decades and lifetimes, as your family wrestled silently with pain they didn't know how to name. Cycles of poverty, broken relationships, unfulfilled callings, unexplained sickness, spiritual numbness, all of it formed a pattern that seemed impossible to escape. But I've been watching your heart, not only for your own journey, but for those who came before you. Your yes is not just unlocking your future, it's breaking the chains around your history. What your parents tried to carry in their own strength, you have surrendered to me. What your ancestors didn't have language for, you've brought to my throne in intercession. You have become the repairer of the breach. And because of that, I'm placing into your life keys that open doors they could never reach. I'm restoring dreams that were buried under trauma. I'm reviving gifts that were passed over out of fear. I'm reigniting mantles that lay dormant because of disobedience generations ago. But I'm not just giving it back, I'm multiplying it. What was lost in their hands will be doubled in yours. What was silenced in their mouths will roar through your voice. I am raising you up not only to break what has bound your family, but to establish a new inheritance they never saw coming. Your children, and your children's children, will walk in spaces no one thought possible. You will become the turning point that redefines legacy. You thought you were just surviving, but you were being positioned as a generational restorer. Every tear you've cried over patterns you couldn't explain, I've counted them. Every time you asked me why things were always harder for your family, I've held those questions in my heart. And now I answer, because I chose you to carry what they couldn't. I selected you to be the one who doesn't just escape the pain, but rewrites the path. That's why your warfare was more intense. That's why your waiting took longer. Because you were never just fighting for yourself, you were fighting for generations. And now that the ground has been broken, I will cause wells of provision, favor, healing, and clarity to spring up where only dust existed before. Where shame once ruled, honor will rise. Where lack once loomed, abundance will dwell. Where dysfunction once echoed, peace will sing. You are not who your past says you are who I say you are. A restorer, a rebuilder, a generational shift. And what I restore through you will continue multiplying long after your lifetime. You will witness breakthroughs in your family you never thought possible, not because they changed, but because you did. You stood firm. You didn't bow. You chose me. And through that choice, I am reclaiming what was stolen. You'll receive blessings you didn't even ask for, because I'm paying you back for what your ancestors lost. The enemy took ground through deception, but now I am taking it back through your obedience. So stand tall. You're not just a survivor, you're a lineage lifter. And before I release the full weight of what I've restored, let me now walk you into the next revelation. Why you, and only you, were born for this moment in time. Before the foundation of the world, I designed a moment that required a specific kind of obedience, a unique heart posture, a level of spiritual resilience that couldn't be mass-produced, and I formed you for that exact moment. You are not an accident of time or a coincidence of history. You are intentional. You are positioned. You are preserved. I shaped you in secret, guarded you through storms you didn't understand, and allowed you to be refined by trials others didn't have to face. All because you were being crafted into a key that would only fit a door scheduled to open now. Others around you may have seemed more qualified. They may have had louder voices or quicker recognition, but they were not tailored for this lock. I didn't need noise. I needed precision. I didn't need talent alone. I needed trust forged through surrender. That's what you carry. That's what makes you rare. You didn't shortcut the process. You didn't compromise to get ahead. You waited. You grew in silence. You chose the hard way when it would have been easier to walk away. And now, because of all that, you are being lifted into position, not as a random promotion, but as a perfect fit. This moment was made for you just as much as you were made for it. Heaven is aligning around your yes. Time is submitting to your obedience. Things that were locked away, strategies, breakthroughs, blueprints, healings, they are now accessible because you, the key I've preserved, are finally ready. When others see what's opening for you, they won't understand how or why. But I know. I see the price you paid in secret. I know the cost of your yes when no one else was watching. You didn't chase a platform, you chased my presence. You didn't build with performance, you built through pain. And that is why I've chosen to release this moment through your life. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. You didn't just wait for the right time, you were transformed into the right vessel for that time. And now the door opens because the key has arrived. Do not underestimate your importance in this hour. Your movement is unlocking motion for others. Your obedience is releasing answers others have prayed for. Your very life has become a permission slip for destiny to manifest in places that were frozen. I have placed rare oil on you, not to elevate you, but to free what hath been stuck. This is why you have been misunderstood. This is why the warfare was unique. Because the enemy knew what I had placed in you wasn't replaceable. You are not optional. You are essential to what I am building in this season. I have preserved your name, guarded your anointing, and now I am presenting you, not as a performer, but as a carrier of solutions. The weight of this moment will not crush you because you were prepared for it before anyone knew your name. So walk boldly now, not with arrogance but with awareness, not with fear but with reverence. You are the key I held back until the earth was ready to receive what you carry. And now that it is, I will begin unlocking places so dry, so hardened, so bound, that only someone like you, shaped through surrender, can open them. And this is just the beginning of what I've been waiting to reveal through your life. Because now, I must show you why your presence in this generation was timed with such precision. You've walked through seasons where the people closest to you couldn't see your value. Not because it wasn't there, but because I had hidden it from their view while I was unveiling it in mine. While voices around you cast doubt, misunderstood your motives, or overlooked what was growing inside, I was speaking a louder word in the heavenly realm. This one belongs to me. Their dismissal didn't delay your purpose. Their criticism couldn't cancel your calling. Even as they misunderstood your silence, mocked your standards, or discredited your journey, I was writing your name on scrolls reserved for those chosen for weightier matters. You were never invisible to me. While the world looked at what you lacked, I was strengthening what they couldn't see. Your spirit, your character, your resilience, your loyalty. I know how painful it was to remain quiet when your heart longed to be understood. I saw the nights you wanted to explain yourself, to defend the path I had you on, to prove that you weren't lost, just led by something they didn't recognize. But you didn't fight back. You stayed still. You kept walking. And every time someone questioned your value, I declared it louder in eternity. I reminded heaven of who you are. I showed the angels the purity of your motives, the consistency of your faith, the beauty of your devotion. You didn't crumble under pressure, you became unshakable beneath it. And while some thought you were weak because you didn't retaliate, I was calling you strong because you chose humility over pride. You have no idea how many times I shielded you from words meant to derail you. How many times I covered your name when it was being mishandled behind closed doors. But I never let it define you. Because while their words were limited to human opinion, my word over your life is eternal. I say you are chosen. I say you are set apart. I say you are my vessel, not for display, but for glory. I validated your identity when no one clapped. I confirmed your belonging when no one invited you in. You thought their rejection was evidence of something wrong, but it was actually confirmation of what's right. that you don't belong where compromise is celebrated. You don't fit where purity is mocked. You don't flow in environments that pretend to love me but deny me in action. That's why you couldn't blend in. It's why you were often left out. It wasn't a punishment. It was a boundary I placed around your destiny. And now that your identity is rooted in me, and not in who clapped or who walked away, I am establishing your name in places where your worth won't be questioned. It will be welcomed. You will be seen by the right eyes. You will be celebrated by hearts who carry honor. You will be valued in spaces where your voice brings clarity and your presence brings peace. I'm surrounding you with people who don't just tolerate your light, they draw strength from it. You've been tested in the shadows. Now you will shine without striving. You no longer have to carry the weight of proving yourself. The battle for identity is over. What I've spoken over you is final, and I'm about to build around that word, not their opinions. And now, I will show you why your identity had to be forged before your influence could be fully released. What I'm unfolding in your life now goes far beyond the answers you've been praying for, beyond the healing you've been waiting on, beyond the provision you faithfully trusted me to release. This is not simply a moment of victory. This is the foundation of something generational. You've cried for a change in your current season, but I've been writing a future that extends far past this one. You've asked me to break cycles, but I'm doing more than that. I'm building new systems. I'm not just giving you relief. I'm establishing a legacy that will outlive you. This moment you're standing in is not the end of a struggle. It's the beginning of a movement. What I'm birthing through you isn't just for your benefit. It's for those coming behind you. The ground you're walking on right now is sacred because it's the very soil in which I'm planting long-term fruit. Your obedience has unlocked more than blessing. It has activated a legacy of righteousness, wisdom, and spiritual wealth that will continue to unfold through every generation tied to your name. You are becoming the root that will nourish branches you'll never meet. And it's because you chose me when no one else did. You chose integrity when shortcuts beckon. You chose my timing when convenience tempted you. You chose holiness when compromise would have been easier. You chose me, and now I'm choosing to let your faith become a blueprint for others. This is why the process took time. This is why it felt like the reward never came fast enough. Because I wasn't simply preparing you to receive. I was preparing you to reproduce. I needed the fruit to be lasting, not fleeting. I needed the transformation to go deep, not just far. And now, because you yielded through delay, I will accelerate the release. You are entering into a season where everything that seemed to pause will now flow. But it won't flow just for you. It will pour through you. Your life is becoming a conduit, a vessel, a spiritual landmark that others will point to and say, "That's where my family changed. That's where the curse broke. That's where it turned around." You are that turning point. I am raising you up as the seed of legacy, not because of status or recognition, but because your heart has proven worthy of multiplication. What I start in you, I will continue through the ones you teach, the ones you love, the ones you pray over, the ones you disciple. And this legacy won't be fragile. It will be unshakable. It won't be built on emotion. It will be anchored in truth. Because I didn't just give you survival. I gave you sustainability. You won't have to strive to maintain this. It will flow because it's born of me. And every time you wonder if the weight is too much, remember, I'm not asking you to carry it alone. I'm partnering with you. I'm establishing covenant through you. You are stepping into the kind of harvest that doesn't fade. And as this legacy begins to take shape, I will give you glimpses of what it will look like through the impact of your words, the freedom in your lineage, the strength in your future generations. This isn't a moment. It's a movement. This isn't a breakthrough. It's a beginning. So take a breath and stand tall, because now I must show you what kind of foundation I've already laid under your feet for what's coming next. What you once perceived as rejection was actually divine preservation. Every time you wondered why you were passed over, why doors didn't open when others walked through theirs, Why recognition came late or not at all, I was shielding you, not ignoring you. I was keeping you away from environments that would have corrupted your purity, dimmed your discernment, and compromised the mission I planted within you. While others rushed into visibility, I placed you in the shelter of my refinement. It wasn't because you weren't ready in skill, it was because I was preparing your heart to carry what others could only imitate. I knew the weight of what I planned for you, and I refused to allow anything to attach itself to your destiny prematurely. I watched as others were chosen before you, not because they were more valuable, but because I had called you to something more specific, something more enduring. I wasn't preparing you for a moment, I was preserving you for an year. Every delay was protection. Every closed door was a boundary. Every unanswered prayer was a redirection. I needed to ensure that when you stepped into what I had for you, you wouldn't have to carry the residue of compromise. That's why I allowed you to be misunderstood, why I permitted the silence to stretch long. You needed to learn that your worth doesn't come from who sees you, but from who sent you. And I sent you, even before they saw you. You were not forgotten. You were being protected like rare treasure. Hidden not because you lacked value, but because of how much value you truly hold. I kept you low so that you would never forget where your strength comes from. I allowed you to walk alone so that you would know how to depend on me when no one else could walk beside you. I preserved your voice from being influenced by culture. I preserved your mind from being polluted by premature opportunity. I preserved your heart from being fractured by flattery or false affirmation. And now, because you allowed me to keep you hidden, I can now trust you to stand in what I'm revealing. What I'm doing through your life will not collapse under pressure, because you've been built in private. Your endurance has not been in vain. Your obedience in the quiet has prepared you for impact in the open. And while others were performing, you were planted. And now, the fruit of that planting is about to emerge, not quickly, but consistently. I am calling you out, not to showcase your strength, but to reveal my faithfulness. I am positioning you, not to lift your name, but to expand my kingdom. The preservation season is ending, and the revealing is beginning. You won't have to fight to be seen. I will cause the right ones to find you. I will draw what's needed to your life: provision, support, covering, alignment. What once felt like delay will now move with precision. You'll begin to understand that my timing wasn't late, it was perfect. I wasn't keeping things from you, I was keeping things for you. And now, as you step into what's next, carry this with you. You are not here by chance. You were preserved for such a time as this. And what I show you next will prove just how intentional every hidden season truly was. Now let me finally bring clarity to what seemed like endless waiting. Every moment you felt paused, every opportunity that slipped through your hands, every time you stared at closed doors and wondered if you did something wrong, those were not signs of failure. They were carefully placed pauses, timed to perfection by my hand. I wasn't punishing you. I was protecting the perfection of your placement. You see, my purpose is not just to bless you, it's to align everything around you in such a way that when I release what I've promised, it lands exactly where it was meant to. If I had rushed the process, you would have been standing in a space where the connections weren't ready, the relationships weren't true, and the timing would have created more frustration than fulfillment. But I don't waste seasons. I synchronize them. I arrange your journey with precision, not pressure. And that's what I've been doing behind the scenes while you were growing weary, wondering if I had forgotten you. I never forgot. I was moving pieces into position. I was redirecting paths you couldn't see. I was softening hearts you hadn't met yet. I was shifting spiritual climates, preparing environments to receive you without resistance. I had to allow some things to collapse, not to discourage you, but to ensure they wouldn't collapse while you were standing in them. What looked like delay was me, removing what didn't belong and clearing the path for what will last. And because you didn't walk away when it felt unfair, because you stayed when nothing moved, you are now about to experience what happens when divine timing collides with unshaken faith. Doors won't just open, they'll swing in rhythm with my voice. Opportunities won't just appear. They'll arrive without effort, because they were always meant for you. You won't need to strive. You'll step. You won't need to explain. You'll embody. I've already gone ahead of you. The places that once resisted you are now being softened. The very spaces that rejected you before will soon call for you. Not because you changed to fit them, but because I changed them to fit what I've placed inside you. That's how alignment works. It doesn't force, it flows. And that's what's coming. Flow. Movement without confusion. Acceleration without pressure. Doors opening without you having to knock. You'll see divine confirmations appearing rapidly, not because you finally worked hard enough, but because the time has finally arrived. And in the rush of new beginnings, you'll remember this truth. The delay didn't derail you, it prepared you for deeper trust. The wait wasn't wasted. It matured your spirit, sharpened your vision, and cleared your motives. I was never withholding from you out of anger. I was preparing everything to meet you at the right time. And now that the time has come, I will align things faster than your understanding can keep up. Just stay close to me. Don't run ahead. Don't cling to what was. Don't try to recreate the past. Let me surprise you. Let me do what only I can do. And as you walk forward, let peace guide you, not panic. Let assurance hold you, not anxiety. What's unfolding now was not delayed. It was divinely reserved for this very moment. And the next part of this unfolding will show you that you weren't just being aligned. You were being assigned to walk in something far greater than you could have ever asked for. Let this truth sink deep into your soul. You have not missed your moment. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. Everything about your timing, your growth, your process, your positioning, hath been orchestrated not by human clocks, but by eternal hands. You live in a world obsessed with deadlines and comparisons, constantly measuring worth by milestones and speed, but I operate from a higher place. My calendar is not bound by your age, your season, your environment, or the voices that told you it's too late. I am the one who created time, yet I am not restricted by it. And because you are mine, your journey doesn't follow the crowd. It follows my voice. You were never meant to move on their pace. You were created to move on my prompting. And I've kept you exactly where I needed you to be, even when your surroundings screamed otherwise. The moments where it looked like you were behind were actually moments of hidden acceleration. The places where it felt like you were standing still were the very places I was strengthening you beneath the surface. I was building endurance while others were chasing speed. I was developing roots while others were rushing to produce fruit. You may not have seen immediate results, but I've been aligning things so that when I launch you, nothing will be missing and no piece will be out of place. Your story has not been delayed. It's been divinely paced. I allowed the pause because I knew the promise required more than talent. It required depth. And that's what I've been forming in you all along. Every season where you felt forgotten was actually a moment of preparation. Every assignment that passed you by was not your loss. It was my protection. Because I don't just want you to arrive. I want you to thrive once you get there. And I know when the conditions are right. I know when the soil is fertile. I know when the hearts around you are ready to receive what you carry. I know the exact second when the door should open so that you don't walk in as a question, but as an answer. That's how specific I am. That's how intentional your timing truly is. So breathe again. Release the pressure you've placed on yourself. Lay down the burden of rushing. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. You didn't miss your purpose. You've been walking in it all along, even when it didn't feel like it. What's coming now is not a restart. It's a continuation of what I've always been doing. And as the pieces begin to move rapidly, you'll see how every seemingly stagnant season was perfectly aligned with something greater. You'll realize that I never required you to be fast, only faithful. And you were. You remained. You listened. You kept walking. And now, the path that felt so long will suddenly begin to make sense. The doors you thought had closed permanently will begin to open without resistance. You will find yourself in the exact place you need to be, surrounded by divine confirmation that you are not late. You are precisely on time. I will redeem what you thought was wasted. I will accelerate what you thought was missed. And I will do it in such a way that even time itself will bow to my design. And now, my child, because you've trusted my pace instead of running after the world's, I will show you the next layer of your journey, where everything you've waited for begins to flow with ease. I know the depth of agony you've endured, the kind that doesn't always show up in words, the kind that carves silent cracks in your spirit, the kind that made you question if I was still watching. I was not distant. I was not unaware. I was not indifferent. I was present, harvesting glory from ground soaked in grief. The ache you thought was breaking you was actually shaping something far beyond what you could see. I never waste pain. Every cry, every unanswered question, every moment of trembling surrender, I was gathering it all like seed, planting it in spiritual soil with the intention to multiply it in due time. And that time is now beginning to unfold. You see, what the enemy tried to use to hollow you out, I have turned into a well that will never run dry. The wounds you've carried didn't disqualify you. They qualified you to carry what others cannot. I've allowed that pain to become a portal, a place where my power meets human frailty in a way that transforms. What was meant to destroy you has now become a garden of unexpected miracles. And not just for you, but for those connected to you. You thought your suffering was isolated, that it only affected your personal story, but I was intertwining it with others' breakthroughs. The very places that once felt like loss are becoming locations of supernatural restoration. Where trauma tried to make a home, I am now building a sanctuary. And where shame tried to bury you, I'm raising a standard through your life. Your pain did not go unseen. I watched how you didn't turn it into bitterness. I saw you wrestle, but you didn't walk away. I heard the questions, and though I didn't always answer immediately, I stored them in my hands and wove responses through the very life you're about to live. The miracle isn't just in what I'm doing for you. It's in who you became through the suffering. You became softer, not harder. You became humble, not bitter. You became wise, not cynical. A transformation alone is a miracle. And now, the fruit of that internal renewal is beginning to bloom outwardly. Doors will open that only respond to hearts that have known pain but remain pure. Assignments will come that require the empathy born from experience. You won't need to pretend to understand suffering. You've lived through it and let me redeem it. That is what makes your voice different. That is why your presence brings comfort. You carry resurrection where others only carry memory. You know what it means to be undone in silence and still worship. And now, I'm taking every bit of that sacred history and using it to write a future filled with healing, breakthrough, and joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. You will begin to see miracles manifest in areas where pain once reigned. Relationships restored. Bodies healed. Hope reborn. But the greatest miracle will be the evidence of my glory resting on you, not in a loud display, but in a steady power that flows from scars turned to strength. You are no longer defined by what happened to you. You are now a carrier of what I did through it. And there's more. Because this miracle is only the beginning. I must now show you how the very places that broke you are about to become launching pads for what I will release through your life next. This is where your journey sets you apart. Not because you never stumbled, not because you always felt strong, but because through it all, your devotion to me never wavered. While others let disappointment pull them away, while many allowed success to cloud their need for me, you clung to me, even when you had every excuse to walk the other direction. That loyalty was not invisible to heaven. It echoed through eternity louder than any public display. I measured your heart, not by how much you achieved, but by how deeply you trusted. In moments when you had nothing left, you still whispered my name. When it looked like my promises had disappeared, you didn't shut the door. You stayed in position. When your prayers seemed unanswered, You didn't replace me with distractions. You waited, even with trembling hands. And that is what separates the chosen from the convenient. You remain loyal. You didn't love me for what I could give. You didn't chase me for applause. You didn't perform for fear. You stayed close for no other reason than love itself, and that love has now become the foundation upon which I will build something unshakable. Others may have known more scripture. Others may have had louder voices or bigger platforms. But I was not looking for the impressive. I was looking for the surrendered. And in you, I found a heart that refused to let go. That is why the shaking didn't break you. That is why the delays didn't derail you. That is why, even in your most silent seasons, your spirit remained anchored. You didn't serve me because it was easy. You served me because I am worthy. And now, the reward is not just a breakthrough. It's authority. Real, lasting, spiritual authority that flows not from title, but from tested loyalty. Doors are opening now not because you forced them, but because heaven recognizes the integrity of your yes. When others negotiated with compromise, you chose the narrow road. When others praised me publicly but ignored me privately, you sought me in the quiet. You didn't pass the test because of flawless performance. You passed it because of unwavering allegiance. And now, I am trusting you with assignments that require that kind of devotion. I am releasing you into spaces where hearts are fractured, because I know you won't exploit their pain. I'm sending you into territories where truth has been diluted, because I know you won't bend under pressure. I am placing you in circles of influence not to elevate your name, but because I know you will carry mine with honor. What comes next requires loyalty forged in fire, and you have proven yourself faithful. I will now respond to the loyalty you showed me when no one else applauded. I will now open what I kept sealed until I saw that your heart wouldn't change when everything else did. And as I do, you will not only see promotion, you will feel a deeper level of intimacy with me. Because loyalty doesn't just grant responsibility, it unlocks access. You are entering into places in my spirit that only friends of God can walk in. And from this place, I will begin to reveal secrets that are only entrusted to those who stayed when it hurt. But before I take you there, I must first uncover the weight of what I am releasing next. Because what's coming upon you now requires a heart like yours to carry it. You have no idea how much I've stored up for this exact moment. Blessings hidden behind what felt like silence, answers buried under what looked like delay, provision wrapped in unexpected packaging. I am not trickling favor into your life. I am releasing it like a wave, a holy flood that will overtake you in places you didn't even know were dry. This is not reward as the world defines it. This is the overflowing goodness of a father who saw every tear, heard every silent cry, and counted every quiet act of faith. You didn't know what was forming in the background while you remained faithful in the foreground. But I did. I watched you choose obedience over convenience. I saw you hold on to integrity when compromise came with comfort. I witnessed your generosity when no one saw your own lack. And now, my child, I am responding in a way that will break every limitation you placed around what was possible. Don't look for me to answer in familiar form. Don't expect me to repeat what I've done for others. I am writing something entirely new over your life, a story so marked by my fingerprints that it cannot be replicated or explained by logic. The blessings coming your way will arrive suddenly, silently, and supernaturally. Doors you never knocked on will open. Resources you never requested will appear. People you haven't met yet will carry answers to prayers you've long forgotten you prayed. I am not doing this because you earned it. I'm doing it because you trusted me when I gave you nothing to hold on to but my word. You didn't stop praising me when things didn't make sense. You didn't withdraw when things became tight. You stayed close. You waited well. And now, the waiting has transformed into a portal for glory. This flood will not drown you. It will lift you. It will elevate your life without requiring you to compromise who you are. You will not have to chase after it. You will simply have to remain available to receive it. I am going to surprise you in your rest. I will whisper strategy in your sleep. I will cause opportunities to collide with your schedule in ways that rearrange everything for good. But this is not just about breakthrough. It's about establishing a rhythm of abundance that flows from my presence. These surprises will not feel like chaos. They will feel like home. You'll know it's me because of the peace that surrounds each moment. And when you wonder, is this really happening? Remember, I don't forget the faith of the hidden ones. I don't overlook the obedience that was never posted, never praised, never popular. I honor the ones who build altars in the wilderness, who remain faithful with little, who worship when no one is watching. And you are one of those. That's why this wave is coming. That's why the momentum will not be man-made. Because what I'm releasing now is not your doing. It's mine. All I ask is that you stay near. Stay surrendered. Stay expectant, but not controlling. Let me surprise you, not just once, but again and again. You are entering a season where my goodness will become undeniable, not because of what you say, but because of what begins to follow you wherever you go. And I will keep surprising you, not to overwhelm you, but to remind you that I am far more generous than you ever imagined. And now, as the flood begins to rise, I must prepare your heart for the next dimension of purpose I'm about to unlock through all that's coming your way. You looked at certain chapters closing, certain relationships fading, certain dreams slipping through your fingers, and everything in you believed it was over. You assumed the silence signaled a final goodbye, that the loss marked a permanent stop. But now, I am revealing what was truly happening. It wasn't the end. It was me preparing you for the real beginning. What seemed like subtraction was strategic refining. What felt like loss was actually alignment. I allowed certain things to unravel because they were never meant to remain part of the foundation I'm building with you. I removed support systems not to isolate you, but to strengthen your roots. The season where everything felt uncertain, where you were stripped of plans, patterns, and people, was not a dead end. It was sacred ground. I was cultivating character, sharpening discernment, increasing your hunger, and molding your dependence solely on me. You thought you were being emptied, but I was clearing space for a greater measure. I wasn't punishing you. I was preserving something far more powerful than your expectations. I was forming something that could only be birthed in the quiet, in the shedding, in the stillness. You learned more in that season of perceived endings than years of striving could have taught you. That quiet season didn't delay your destiny. It qualified you for it. You now carry depth that can't be faked. You carry wisdom born from surrender. You carry strength developed in the absence of applause. And now, because you did abandon the process when you didn't understand it, I am releasing you into the very purpose that those endings made room for. You are about to see why certain doors remain shut. You are about to meet the reason those connections didn't last. You are about to walk into moments tailor-made for who you've become, not who you used to be. Because the preparation transformed you. And now, I can trust you with what would have overwhelmed you before. The pain that once confused you is now the platform I will build through. You will begin to see how every closed path redirected your feet toward promise. You'll look back and realize that what you thought was collapse was actually construction. The shedding made you lighter. The stillness made you stronger. The release made you ready. You were not being delayed. You were being made whole. You are now walking out of the shadows with a spirit that has been forged in fire and anchored in truth. And as I begin to unveil what was hidden behind the curtain of your waiting, you will feel the weight of my timing. Precise, powerful, and undeniable. No part of the journey was wasted. Every moment served the greater story I am telling through your life. And what comes next will not resemble what you lost. It will surpass it. It will be richer in substance, deeper in purpose, and stronger in foundation. Because what you're stepping into now could only be received by the version of you who chose to endure. So walk with confidence, not in what's beginning, but in what was refined. The end was never an end. It was me setting the stage. And now that the curtain is rising, I must walk you forward into the next unveiling, where your preparation becomes the stage for my glory to be revealed through you like never before. The very things you prayed for, fasted over, cried out in the dark about. They are no longer far off, no longer just promises whispered in faith. They are moving toward you. You will no longer have to strive, search, or stretch to chase after what I've already assigned to find you. What once seemed distant is now being drawn to the coordinates of your obedience. Your waiting hasn't gone unnoticed. It has become a signal in the spirit, and that signal has activated motion in places you cannot yet see. I have commanded opportunities to locate you. I have released divine alignments to intersect with your path. You won't have to knock on every door. Some of them will open as you approach, simply because they recognize who you've become in the waiting. The patience you carried wasn't passive. It was prophetic. While others tried to force outcomes, you chose to stay rooted. You chose to trust me, even when I seemed silent. And now, because of that posture, the very things you thought had passed you by are circling back, not empty-handed, but overflowing with fulfillment. The harvest didn't forget you. It was ripening behind the scenes. The vision didn't vanish. It was waiting until your character could carry it with honor. The promises I gave you didn't fade. They matured alongside you. And now, because your heart is aligned, they are being drawn to you by my timing, not your effort. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time without forcing it. I have orchestrated movements in the background that will place you in rooms you never pursued and conversations you never scheduled. Favor will follow you not because you demanded it, but because you've made me your dwelling place. What once felt like a dream too far to reach is now becoming your lived reality. People who once ignored you will now recognize what you carry. Situations that once resisted you will now respond with welcome. But it won't be because you changed who you were. It will be because I've confirmed who I always said you were. This is what happens when you wait with reverence. You shift from chasing to receiving. You will begin to recognize the signs, sudden peace where there once was pressure, doors opening without striving, resources arriving before you even ask. These aren't coincidences. They are confirmations that what you were once reaching for is now reaching for you. The atmosphere around you is shifting in your favor because you chose to trust my process instead of rushing your own. And in this shift, I will prove to you that I have never been late. I have always been working, not just on the promise, but within you. What you once prayed to find, now comes to find you. And as it does, remember this, it's not showing up because you finally became good enough. It's showing up because you remained faithful when you felt forgotten. That faith has created an invisible current, and now, your life will begin to flow in rhythms of divine attraction, where what is meant for you finds you with ease. And as this begins, you must stay rooted in humility. Do not grab at what I've already placed in motion. Simply keep walking with me, and you will see it unfold in ways far beyond your plans. This is the season where answered prayers won't just visit, they'll settle. And what begins now will only be the beginning of a greater unveiling, because I'm not done bringing to you what I've been preparing in my hands for this very moment. There is no longer a need to strive for what has already been assigned by my voice. What you once tried to grasp through effort, I am now sending through alignment. I've already spoken over the very things you thought you needed to earn, and they are now under orders to locate you. You are stepping into a realm where chasing is replaced with trusting, and desperation gives way to divine flow. I do not call you to exhaustion. I call you to surrender. I never asked you to force open doors. I asked you to walk with me and let me unlock what only I can. I've seen you labor, push, stretch, and question if you were doing enough. But I want to relieve you of that pressure now. My child, you are enough because I am the one sending what belongs to you. And what I send doesn't need to be pursued. It recognizes your presence. I've told the provision where to go. I've given your name to destiny. I've whispered your assignment into the ears of people who will come into your path not by accident, but by divine arrangement. I've already gone ahead of you, speaking on your behalf in rooms you've never entered, preparing spaces tailored to the version of you I refined in silence. You will not need to fight to be seen. Your time in the wilderness has prepared a fragrance that draws what I've ordained. Just as the wise men followed the star, there are assignments, resources, opportunities, and connections following the light of your obedience. They are on their way now, not because you chased them, but because you stayed with me. What I have declared over your life cannot be intercepted by doubt, delay, or demonic interference. It will arrive, precisely timed, because it was never dependent on your ability, only your availability. You are entering a season of magnetism, not natural but spiritual, where everything marked for you is being pulled into your orbit. And it will arrive empty. It will carry more than you asked. Because I'm not just meeting needs, I'm fulfilling purpose. The connections coming will carry wisdom. The doors opening will lead to influence. The provision released will sustain more than just you. It will bless those attached to your obedience. And I need you to know this. Your value has never been in what you could produce, but in who you chose to follow. You followed me when it felt like nothing was moving. You chose to believe when outcomes said otherwise. You didn't let delay turn into doubt, and that is why this shift is unstoppable. You are about to walk into prepared moments, pre-spoken meetings, divinely timed turning points. You will begin to notice the ease, not because life becomes perfect, but because your spirit is now moving in sync with my will. You'll walk into answers you didn't have to chase. You'll receive confirmations before you even ask. Because I don't just reward effort, I honor surrender. Let go of the urge to strive. Let go of the fear that it won't happen unless you force it. Let go of the idea that you have to prove your worth to be chosen. You are already chosen, and everything that's meant to find you is already following the trail of your faith. So keep your heart open. Keep your hands lifted. Keep your steps steady. You are not behind, you're aligned. And now, as I bring to you what I've already commanded on your behalf, I must show you what kind of harvest is about to grow from seeds you didn't even remember you planted. The story you thought was set in stone. I've revised it. The script that seemed to be leading to disappointment, the chapter that felt like delay would always dominate, the years that looked wasted, I've edited them with my own hand. You are not bound to the same path that brought you pain. I have stepped into your timeline and reordered it with redemption. Everything forward from this moment will begin to accelerate, not because you forced it to, but because I have declared it is time. What once took years will now take months. What once felt stuck will now flow with ease. Not because life has suddenly become easier, but because the alignment of my word has overtaken the narrative of your wounds. You are no longer operating under delay. You are operating under favor. That favor is not tied to opportunity alone. It's tied to identity. I didn't just change your circumstances, I changed the way time responds to you. Where you once experienced resistance, now you experience response. The heaviness you felt every time you tried to move forward has lifted, because your timeline has been rewritten by the one who stands outside of time. I am not restoring things to the way they used to be. I am redeeming them into something better than you imagined. You thought your best years had passed, but I say to you now, they are just beginning. You are walking into divine timing where my hand is causing acceleration without chaos. You won't feel rushed, you will feel released. You won't feel confused, you will feel carried. Doors that once took years to build will open in an instant. Delays that once robbed your peace will dissolve in a moment. This is not a lucky break. It's the evidence of my intentional grace. I've reached back into places where time seemed to betray you, and I've infused it with purpose. That season where you felt like nothing moved, I've turned it into a launch pad. Those detours that made no sense, I've rerouted them into divine intersections. You won't have to relive the sorrow of yesterday to experience the promise of today. I've already folded it into your future in a way that only I can. And now, because of the weight you've carried and the trust you've kept, I am going to move through your life in a way that causes others to ask how it all happened so quickly. They won't understand the process, but they will witness the results. And you will tell them, it was the Lord who rewrote the timeline. It was the Lord who stepped into the places I thought were over and started something new. It was the Lord who rearranged the seasons so that what was meant for harm could serve a higher purpose. Your timeline is no longer defined by delay, failure, or missed moments. It's defined by grace, multiplication, and divine fulfillment. I am making up for lost time in ways you won't be able to measure, only marvel at. So stop bracing for setbacks. Stop expecting another waiting season. Stop anticipating disappointment. You are no longer living in the rhythm of postponement. You are living in the flow of promise. And everything around you will begin to reflect that truth. And what I show you next will be the undeniable proof that I have turned your not yet into now, and your timeline is finally in motion with heaven's speed. Now prepare your heart for this. What's about to unfold will not be the result of networking, effort, or strategy. It will be the direct evidence of my spirit moving in ways no human hand could manufacture. What you're stepping into next is not going to follow a formula or familiar pattern. It won't look like what others experienced, and it won't come through the methods people told you were required. This is not a reward from man. This is a release from me. I am bypassing systems that once ignored you. I'm overriding protocols that previously disqualified you. I am tearing down the walls of impossibility that were erected by logic, fear, and man-made timelines. You won't have time to prepare in the way you think, because what I'm doing will be sudden, supernatural, and undeniable. You'll look around and realize that within a moment, everything shifted, not slowly, not in stages, but instantly. Not because you pushed it, but because I breathed on it. I will accelerate what you thought would take years. I will accomplish in days what your mind tried to stretch into decades. Because this next season is not about performance, it's about presence. Where my spirit is, mountains move. Where I speak, resistance breaks. And I have spoken over you. I have declared that now is the time. I'm not asking you to understand how it will happen. I'm asking you to stay positioned, surrendered, and available. There will be no mistaking that it is me when it begins. The doors that open will swing too wide to be the work of chance. The people I connect you with will come bearing clarity, not confusion. The places I send you will be marked with divine confirmation. And in every step, you'll know, this wasn't orchestrated by hands. This was orchestrated by heaven. Even your enemies will be silenced by the suddenness of my movement. Those who once scoffed at your faith will have no words when they witness the speed of my release. And you won't have to defend what I'm doing. The fruit will speak for itself. You've spent seasons trying to build what I was asking you to wait for. But now, I am building for you. I am going ahead of you. I am surrounding you with what cannot be bought, taught, or earned. This is what my spirit does. It breathes on what was barren and makes it fruitful. It moves in rooms you've never entered and makes a place for your arrival. It whispers into the ears of kings and calls your name in the middle of their planning. You won't have to compete. You won't have to chase. I am doing this not by force, not by intellect, not by manipulation, but by my spirit. And when it comes, don't hesitate. Move with me. When the invitation arrives, say yes with confidence. When the shift begins, walk boldly into it. You don't need to wait for the approval of others when I have already commissioned you. Let me be the author of your acceleration. Let me be the architect of your advancement. The world will try to explain it, but they won't be able to. That's how you'll know it's me. This is the moment I've been preparing you for, not to showcase your efforts, but to demonstrate my sovereignty. So get ready, my child. What no man could orchestrate, my spirit will now bring forth, and what happens next will leave you in awe of what I had planned all along, long before you took your first breath. Before time even began counting seconds, I had already crafted the very moments you're about to walk into. These aren't random blessings or last-minute ideas. They're sacred appointments written into the eternal plan with your name engraved in them. You are not stumbling forward. You are walking into what I already spoke over you when the world was still void and silent. Every step you take now is meeting with something ancient yet new. Promises planted in eternity now manifesting in your reality. You've waited and I've watched. You've endured, and I've preserved. You thought this season was delayed, but in truth, it was always set to arrive at this exact hour. What's ahead of you is not something you created, it's something I authored. These divine encounters, these unexplainable breakthroughs, these powerful shifts, they are part of a storyline much bigger than what your eyes can currently perceive. You didn't earn your way into this moment, you were destined for it. This is why the warfare was so relentless. This is why the pressure grew heavier as you approached the threshold. The enemy could smell the shift before you saw it. They feared what would happen if you kept walking, kept believing, kept waiting. But you did. And now, what I sealed in the heavenly realm long ago is opening like a scroll before you. The timing is no accident. Every connection that's about to happen, every opportunity that's being revealed, every environment that's shifting to make room for you, it was all preordained. That's why it will feel strangely familiar when it happens. That's why your spirit will settle into it even before your mind understands. You are not entering the unknown. You are returning to what I already prepared for you. These are holy moments, orchestrated with divine precision. This next chapter of your journey is not being built as you walk, it's being unveiled. You'll begin to realize that certain rooms were waiting on you. Certain people were being prepared just as you were. Certain assignments couldn't begin until you arrived because you were the one I appointed to carry the solution. That's why the timing matters. That's why I ask you to wait. Because now, every thread comes together. Now, every unseen sacrifice is met with fulfillment. You are walking into answers that have been held in suspension, waiting for your heart to be ready and your posture to remain surrendered. And you'll notice, things will start aligning without explanation. What once felt difficult will begin to feel natural. Conversations will spark connections. Closed doors will swing open without resistance. And it won't be because you finally figured it all out. It's because you stepped into what I've always had waiting. You're not building from scratch. You're stepping into alignment. You're walking on paths carved by my word, paved by my promises, and lit by my presence. This is where your footsteps sync with eternity's rhythm. And it's only the beginning. There are more pages yet to be opened. There are more moments waiting in the folds of time. And I will walk you into each one, not rushed, not anxious, but prepared and covered. So breathe in deeply. You are not behind. You are not guessing. You are exactly where I placed you, in the middle of something far greater than you ever imagined. And now that you've stepped into my timing, I will begin to show you what happens when destiny meets obedience you've spent years misunderstood. People assume they knew your story, your motives, your heart, but they only saw fragments. They judged by what was visible, never realizing the depth of what you carried in silence. You've often felt the tension of wanting to defend your decisions, to explain your obedience, to justify why you stayed when others left, why you moved when others remained. But I'm telling you now, release the pressure to be understood. You no longer need to use your voice to convince anyone of what I've placed within you. I will be your explanation. My power displayed in your life will silence questions, dissolve doubts, and dismantle assumptions. What I'm about to do will speak louder than any argument, louder than any opinion spoken behind your back, louder than anything your own words could ever articulate. I'm lifting the weight of needing to be validated by people who were never meant to understand your journey. They couldn't see the full picture because I never revealed it to them. I entrusted it to you, and that's why it cost so much. That's why you had to carry it alone at times. But you didn't quit, and now I'm stepping into the spotlight on your behalf. I will display my faithfulness through your testimony in such a way that even your silence will carry authority. You won't have to respond to criticism. You won't have to defend the road I've led you down. The fruit of your life will say everything that needs to be said. The transformation I've done in you will become undeniable. I will speak through your healed relationships. I will speak through your restored influence. I will speak through the open doors and the unexpected favor. Your life will become a living declaration that my hand hath been upon you all along. This isn't about revenge or proving anyone wrong. This is about showing what I do with a heart that says yes even when it's breaking. I've seen the moments where you wanted to shout your side of the story, but instead, you chose peace. I've seen when you could have clapped back, but you chose silence. I've seen when you could have walked away from me because of how others treated you, but you stayed. And now I'm honoring that restraint. I'm blessing that maturity. I'm releasing a public unveiling that will speak what you never tried to say. The very ones who dismissed your journey will look again, not to mock, but to marvel. And you will not carry bitterness. You will carry compassion. Because when I speak through your life, it brings healing, not just validation. So rest in this. Child, you are not behind, and you are not overlooked. You are being spoken for by heaven itself. And what I say carries weight that no opinion can cancel. So keep moving forward. Let me speak. Let me defend. Let me present. And as I begin to do so, you will witness something even greater, because I'm not only speaking through what I bless, I'm also going to show you how I've been preparing a table in the very presence of every storm you've endured. Amen.